if there's an audience member speaking and you've turned it up because they're here, then if you speak into the same mic, it's going to be really loud.
Right.
Whereas these two can make sure they're speaking together. Okay, cool.
But yeah, I love the ribbons, man. Represent. Love it. So they have a couple other games like only use PC to play. Yeah. I was in Mexico. I spent like $3,000 on a new PC.
There is a little bit like it says chocolate and alcohol, and it just has bubbles in it.
And then 25, and then I have one laptop there.
Bobby, it's time.
And I also bought a laptop PC.
We're going to kind of begin around the conversation of decentralization, centralization, stablecoin, money, the world.
Premiere. We can go all
Exactly.
special. So many companies.
So today's way more philosophical than technical. Perfect. And just have a chat. So if that's all we talk about, is perfect. We talk about that all day. Yeah. So Bobby's not married in crypto. Isn't it enough? But Bobby is in money and finance.
Well, then perfect. Daniel, is that Ernesto coming?
I'll deal with it in a minute. Nice to meet you. Okay, Bobby Trav. So we're
the state of money. Hola, Ernesto. Hey. Mucho gusto. That's exactly what I said. Ernesto.
Okay, so we're gonna have. Okay, so we've got two mics between. Who's never used the mic? Even one mic. Yeah.
Hello.
Goes in this element. Big badaboom. Good. So, yeah, big mic. We're mainly starting with decentralization. It's a very philosophical conversation. The state of money. I think it would be nice to look at the principles of money is money. I enjoy to explain to people when everybody's over. I promise you, we'll start with Alright, you know what? Yeah, you know what? We're good. I know we're good. We're good. Do I need to turn this on? Yeah, turn it on.
1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2,
3,
4.
Test, probando.
We're good. Ladies, gentlemen, people of all ages, shapes, and sizes, I know that we've had a really beautiful sound and feeling as you've been here this morning, so I don't want to disrupt that too much. But I would love you all to give yourselves a big round of applause and welcome to the Crypto Dinner. Playa del Carmen. Number 47. Thank you for Chris there for helping us. It was our plan tonight to have a deeper discussion and just a nicer energy. And although you didn't know that, I just want to say thank you to your subconsciousnesses for bringing a much nicer, calmer energy, which we've all felt from the stage. So I am curious, who has been to one of our events before? Just show us your hand. Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. And who's never, ever been to one of our events before? Awesome. Everyone that has been before, please give these guys a round of applause for showing up. Thank you so much. So we do these events for free because we really care about coming together to talk about crypto, because we're the oddities of society a little bit. And we wanted a social space, and we wanted a space whereby it was a safe space to discuss anything. So if there's one thing that tonight is, whilst we might be speaking a lot from stage, just know this: it's a place that you can ask questions, and it's a place where there is no such thing as a silly question. And that comes across a lot in crypto sometimes. But in order to ask a question, we need to practice something. People that have been to our events before will know this. But I want everyone to, there we go. I want everyone to look at their left hand. Now, your left hand is the one that makes a L. So if I can see everyone's L's, if you just do this with your left hand, and then just put it in the air like this, and just say, I have a question. A little bit louder. I have a question.
I have a question.
That is how we can ask a question here today, because tonight is an event where we have interaction, which means without you guys asking questions, we actually would sound like this. Is that Pepe the Frog? So we need questions. It helps us to discuss things. And if you disagree, you can just say, I disagree. I don't want everyone here to agree with what we're talking about. Otherwise, that would be pointless. So, we only really have one other rule, but I think you guys are a really good audience today, and that is one conversation. So if you have the person that's next to you that's shouting too loud or talking too loud, you can use the right hand. It doesn't make an R. Vadim, show us your right hand. I know you do with your right hand. When you put it up, you do this shape, and then if they're speaking really loud, you just do this. Until they be quiet a little bit. It's called the ribby, pokey, pokey. It's a very good technique. You can remember that. So what do we have tonight? Well, before we have tonight, we have Chris, my partner here, who's been running these events for the last year with us. We have Sawai on the sound desk. We have Vadim here helping out on the mics and with questions today. And we have our beautiful panel.
Stop it.
Do we think they're beautiful people? And
oh shucks.
And so
I disagree.
So tonight we are on a topics night. Topics night mean we don't have a theme in brackets. We have topics, and we're discussing worldly events, and we're going to see where that takes us to. So it's a little bit more, dare I say, armchair philosophical than it is technical analysis of the Bitcoin chart. So tonight we are going to be mainly talking about, we're going to begin with the state of the world. It's a nice, easy intro. State of the world, fiat, money, the banking system, centralization, decentralization, the difference between them both, stable coin. And if we have any more time left after that, we'll move on to topic number 2. So anybody interested in the state of the world, fiat, centralization, decentralization, raise your hands. Okay, as a generic majority, vote carried. Congratulations, we're on our first topic. So before we go into that, I'm going to give you guys like a minute to just share why you think you should even sit here and what you care about or something like that. Is that good? Just going to let Ernesto place his order. It's okay. You getting beers in? Good man. Okay, cool. So who we got up first? What's your name? Where you from? Why are you here? Bobby, you can go first.
Hi, I'm Bobby. I like long walks on the beach. Bobby Casey, I've been involved in crypto for quite a while, since about 2012. I had a couple of clients pay me in Bitcoin. Thought it was pretty stupid. But I thought, what the hell, we'll take it and see how it goes. Got involved in mining in 2014. I was partner in a mine, mining Ethereum, and then started mining some Equihash coins in 2016. until last year when I sold the company. So that's my kind of crypto experience. I run a bunch of nodes now. And philosophically anarchist, and as Daniel likes to call me, the sexy tax guy. Yeah.
Have you been reading my contacts in my phone?
Yeah, I have. Yep.
Do you go to anarchist meetings?
I do not, because we don't organize. Yeah.
Good answer.
But
Okay. Who's next?
I guess I'm already talking. Yeah, well, my name's Travis Meredith. Nice to meet everybody. I also first heard and got sort of involved with crypto, like probably in about 2011, 2012. I had some colleagues in San Francisco who put me on it. Unfortunately, I didn't invest and see the vision as much as some of them did. They've all cashed out and retired. I'm still working, but that's okay. I think there's still a lot of room, a lot of a runway left. We're still in the beginning of it all, especially giving a lot of circumstances and evolvements in the world. I also work in tax and accounting. I have my entire life. Also another unfortunate endeavor, but I sort of enjoy they call me a masochist. And yeah, so I do also, I wouldn't say anarchist, probably more libertarian for my philosophical views. I've been living as a nomad, as a traveler for the past about 13 and a half years. I've lived in quite a few different places and worked in a lot of different economical situations. And I believe in the original cause of what the crypto goes for, the blockchain community of connecting everyone without any central middleman. And any other questions, y'all feel free to ask.
Cool. Thank you very much, Trav. Awesome. Ernesto?
Yeah, I'm Ernesto Contreras. I'm Venezuelan. I, just like my two friends here, I had a friend introduce me to crypto in 2013, and I thought it was a really stupid idea. So we were living in China, and my friend begged me for $500 to buy, I think it was like 3 or 4 miners. And my response was, Josias, Brazilian guy, this is stupid. I don't want to get game coins. Let's go and party and live it in Shanghai. So we spent the $500 partying. And then a few years later, I moved to Mexico, and somebody called me because there was a job offer for a startup and they wanted a marketing person for them. So I ended up joining Bitso. And back in 2016, I've been living with and in crypto ever since. Since 2018, I joined Dash in their business development area, and now I'm their global head of business development. And like my friends, I think we're going to have a good conversation because I'm more of a pragmatic in terms of crypto. In the past year and a half, I've lived and worked in Venezuela, Mexico, Ukraine, the US, and now here. And all of that time, I had the chance to send money to my mother and grandmother in Venezuela. I had the chance to pay my bills, whether that was in hryvnias in Ukraine, whether that was in Mexico to pay the things that I had here because I got stuck in Venezuela during COVID and all of that. So I love what crypto really can enable people to do. And this is the reason why I'm here today.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ernesto. Can we give him all a round of applause? And just super quick, because you got a mic over there as well, Sawai. I just want Sawai and Vadim to introduce themselves because we really want to bring these guys into the conversation because they have beautiful things to share, and we always leave it for the panelists. So just give us a 30 seconds, guys, because I really want some of your thoughts on some of these topics tonight.
Hello, Vadim here. I entered to crypto world in 2017, probably like maybe most of us, when the neighbor, the friends, the Facebook was full of information about Bitcoin is going up and this is something that you need to buy. And I did it. I bought it the highest price and I sold it at the lowest price.
Yes, that's how we make money, isn't it?
But since then, I learned about technical analysis, fundamental analysis, indicators, investing, met crypto millionaires, and my life changed. I was lucky to invest 2 years ago in 5 coins that made my first capital. And after that, I've never had a day without checking the Bitcoin price.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Vadim. Sawai, give us a 2 cents.
Hi everyone, this is Hawaii. I sometimes delete your chat in a group if you spam. That's me.
Done.
Thank you, Sawai.
I mined Bitcoin a long time ago. I sold my first Bitcoin to Da Vinci from Toronto for $20, and that was my all-time shame. When COVID started, I moved to Italy. I stayed there for a year because the lockdown was really rough. So I came to Mexico. It's been almost a year now. I really love it here. And my parents and my family would come from an entrepreneurial background in Toronto. We own a couple businesses for the past 30 years. So with the crypto community, I would like to really love to offer non-technical aspects. And also, how do you see it as a layperson coming from the outside, from a business standpoint? And I don't like to pump and dump. So if you come to me with any evaluating projects, just make sure I'm going to offer you a very, very critical perspective. So be warned that. That's all. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much. Give Sawai a round of applause. Then we're going to get stuck into it. So we're going to be talking about stable coins, regularization, money, all of these things. I think we should probably begin with what is money. There's always a good place to start. Now, I want everyone in the audience to know that at any point you can ask a question. We might even come to you for answers. We used to do that all of the time, but we never really got very deep. So I'm allowing some people to discuss and we can observe. But if you have thoughts on it, if something doesn't make sense, please put your hand up. Otherwise, you're going to spend the next 20 minutes, well, probably checking Instagram or something. So what's money? Let's start.
So first off, does anyone in the crowd they'd like to give an opinion of what they and how they view money?
That's you guys. We have a hand at the back, a hand at the front.
Just before we give him mic, the last week I asked my kid that was 4 years old, I said, why do we need money? He said, to buy toys and food. And then I saw the adults, we are not so different. But we have a different toys, right?
Well, sometimes. Okay, so we're going to take 3 people from the audience. You got a minute or 2. What do you think money is?
Well, money for me is everything. Everything you see, everything you touch is related to money. And where you're walking, where you're wearing, it's about money. So for me, money is everything.
Awesome. Thank you. What's your name, sir?
Rene Diaz.
Rene. Cool. Rene, thank you for holding the microphone pretty close to your mouth as well. That's good. And so we like to see good mic handling. Who's next?
Hi, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
For me, money is a symbol that represents human energy. That's it.
Poetic.
Agreed. 100%.
Okay. So we got money is everything. It represents energy, human energy.
I'm Lucas.
Hi, Lucas.
For me, money is good money, at least. Is a store of value, medium of exchange, and unit of account. If it's not any one of those things, it's not good.
Well, if it's not any of those things, could you give it
all of those things?
What if it was not a store of value? Could it have a different name?
Well, that's called the US dollar, and we don't like that because it's not a store of value.
Somebody here must like the US dollar. I like it. I'm okay with it.
People they accept it. So
yeah, it's a useful piece of paper
we need
sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, Louis, thank you very much. All right, so there are 3 audience views that we got on stage.
All right, so we have it is everything. We have it's a form of energy, which I think you could parallel to is a unit of account. Yeah,
maybe.
Which because otherwise, it's a store of energy and a value of energy is one way of accounting for something. Right? Then you have a store of value. And what was your third? A medium of exchange, right? So I do believe that using money as a medium of exchange and as a store of value is kind of historically where we've been with this, right? The history of money is coming from gold trimmings and then from bankers storing your gold and then giving IOUs and managing it, right? So what were they using the gold for was a system to improve bartering systems. And so I think if we look historically at what money is and where it came from, it was used primarily as a system and of a unit of exchange, like a medium of exchange unit and a unit of account for your energy input. I am not of the personal opinion that money needs to be a store of value in order to be considered money. I actually think that is a common misconception that people have with money, and is also one of the major hurdles of getting people into investing in assets which are stores of value, because I do find it difficult to, historically especially, difficult for all three of those to be true. I think I see where you're coming from, where some blockchain cryptocurrencies can do all three, but I'm not sure that it needs to be all three in order to be good, solid money.
Okay. Anybody think anything else?
Wow. What I've seen is that money is whatever two people, in this case, agree on exchanging for something. In the first days of history that I've read, chimpanzees were exchanging sex for things. So in that moment, the chimpanzees were trading sex for food. So that was money for them. Then time goes by and people started exchanging salt. And then that was money for those people that were exchanging salt. Then it was gold, like you're mentioning. And then whether we like it or not, leaders of groups started saying, well, I'm going to protect you from whatever danger there's outside, but then I need you all to pay to me for protection. And that was the case, 500, 700, 800 years ago, when people were gathered in clans around kingdoms. And then fast forward to today, and the government, whatever you think it is, claims that they'll protect you as long as you use their system, which is based on a piece of paper, and somebody decides that that's going to be $100 or $20 or 1,000 bolivars or 1,000,000 bolivars or 100,000 million bolivars or 1,100,000 million bolivars, which is what today's medium-sized currency in Venezuela would account if they had not slashed 17 zeros. So money is anything that two people agree on exchanging value for. And when you're in a stable moment or a stable economy, like many of you guys live in Europe or other places, you don't think about it. But then whenever things break down, whenever things start to break down, people freak out and they're like, okay, what else can I get to? When AMLO won here in Mexico like 3 years ago, Bitcoin volume spiked because people were freaking out whether he was going to be breaking the country's economy, and they wanted to be safe. And in Venezuela, in all the years that we've had the economy literally break down to shambles and burn while I was on the ground, people exchange value for eggs. You can pay today in some places in Venezuela with gold. You can take gold and buy your groceries. And of course, dollars, euros, Bitcoin. We've done a lot of things with Dash in Venezuela. You can shop there. So whatever you want to be money will be money.
I'll just make a couple of comments here. So I liked who said energy. One of the guys. Yeah, I kind of like that one. I'll add to that just a little bit here, because money is the tangible measurement of your value to humanity. Actually, there are other intangible values, of course, but in reality, money is the tangible value of your tangible measurement of your value to humanity. So, I mean, you think about somebody like Elon Musk. Elon Musk, I guess, is still the richest guy on earth right now, right? Anybody know?
Depends on the stock price, doesn't it?
Yeah, it depends on the stock price. But I mean, he's
up there.
Yeah, he's he's pretty good, right? But if you look at the tangible value he's provided to humanity with different companies he's had and the billions of people he's affected, it's about mass, right? It's the reach he's had on humanity. Like him, hate him, doesn't really matter. You can't really argue with the reach he's had on humanity. And really, that money is just his tangible measurement of the impact he's had on humanity. And then one other comment. One of the arguments, and I'm sure every one of us have heard this when we're talking to our non-crypto friends about money, is that crypto has no intrinsic value. Anybody ever heard that?
See.
Anybody ever not heard that? That's a pretty common thread. Crypto has no intrinsic value. The reality is no money has intrinsic value. I mean, unless you're trading bags of wheat or, bushels of bananas for your services, but no money has intrinsic value. Everybody, you get the gold bug argument that says, oh, but gold has intrinsic value. No, gold has a market price based on what the markets or humans have determined it's worth, right? I mean, there is a minor industrial use of gold, a minor industrial use for silver, but ultimately it's really just a human determination of value that's created by markets. So I think it's just an interesting counterpoint to when somebody says crypto has no intrinsic value, that, yeah, nothing else does either.
You could take that view of intrinsic value, though, like you say, almost the way to everything. Even if we looked at the price of bananas, you could say bananas have an intrinsic value, you can eat them. But the price of bananas might have nothing to do with that intrinsic value. That's because of market makers and buyers and sellers. Correct. So something can have an intrinsic value, but as soon as you start talking about money, you could, or the price of it, you could argue that it's an irrelevant concept, whether it is intrinsic, whether it has real use case or not.
Well, that's your that's your counterpoint, because the banana itself has an intrinsic value because it has nutritional value to your body, but the money you exchange for it has no intrinsic value. It's, but the point is nobody uses bananas for money, right? So,
oh wow, that's louder here. So okay,
not yet.
Before, not yet. So then I think, because we're going to be slowly moving on to centralization and decentralization, which is where we want to get to. But before we get to that, we kind of have to set the context and the framing. So we've got money, which, to summarize all this, is the crystallization of something. It's the crystallization of energy, power, influence. I had a mentor that used to say money is crystallized time. That the amount of time it takes you to earn that, if you have it, you can buy that time. And there's loads of different ways we can think about it, but it holds something. And maybe it can be a store of value, maybe it can't, but we carry these energetic bonds in our pockets and we can do stuff with it. And that's got some use case. So then, I don't know how to frame this. I'm just going to say, you can say a comment. That's the right hand. Well done, sir. I'll take that. Then I'm going to come to that in 1 second. I'm going to frame this up. Then we're going to get his question. And so ultimately, I want to ask what's wrong with it, because that helps us move into the next space. So we're going to ponder that whilst we come to, what's your name, sir?
My name is Thomas.
Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. I was just thinking or wondering, were we talking about money or the theory of money? Because I'm always mixing this up, because you give money some kind of, well, actually, everybody believes in the narrative of money, but right now, within the last 2 years, we could see what happens to money if it's not solid as it's supposed to be. And I read a very interesting article by Tom Luongo, and he was differing between inside money and outside money. So the outside money is backed to a solid value, right? And the inside money is actually most of the money we can count on Earth, but it's actually it's representing the casino of the super rich, stock market and whatever. So my question is, were we talking or discussing about the real money or the theory of money?
Okay, So let's try to tie this in with what we just previously talked about and also segue into some sort of centralized versus decentralized theme. Because I heard from your question here where you're talking about like you have the insiders and you have the powers monies and then what we're seeing as monies. And I feel all of these are pretty related topics, right? So if we're really talking about money as a concept, then it is mostly purely philosophical, right? Just as we covered that like gold and bananas also have market prices, and markets being, if we really just want to simplify things, is like people agree on their worth, right? Like we all know, like just like we talked about with the banana having intrinsic value versus the banana having a price value, etc. The real variable here is, well, one, supply and demand, which is all economics, right? And it's also a little bit of just philosophy of like what people agree on. So I would say that more than anything, money is probably mostly philosophical, in my opinion, right? But to move over to one of your other points about whether it be an insider money, power money, like stocks, like S&P 500, we're going to go into like the whole BlackRock Vanguard realm. Like there's a lot of, we could say there's insider trading and there's insider manipulation, possibly, of a lot of currencies that are used globally in the world, right? And this was from what I understand, if you read the memo in the first block of Bitcoin, it was released in 2008, 2009. I don't remember exactly, but after the financial crisis, and it had I think it was a paper in the UK, was like a headline.
It was the Daily Mail.
Yeah. The chancellor on the brink of some financial crisis, bailing out the banks again, using the people's money to support this inside corruption, right? That's like the whole anarchist, libertarian, like people's money theory behind the whole idea of being completely decentralized, is to take some sort of control back over the money, right? And this isn't, and it's not like a black and white type of scenario. This is kind of more like, I saw a really good meme image about this, about like, imagine you have like a pipe, like a really big pipe, and for 500 years, all the money went through one pipe. But now there's like a leak in the pipe, and we're getting to have some access to the money directly without it going through the middleman, right? And we don't want to be delusional or naive and to think that the big banks and the governments aren't already buying Bitcoin and already trying to manipulate the price. But as these technologies improve and as things get more decentralized, which we'll talk about the technologies and stuff about this as we go, but decentralized just meaning that the people have more influence than they did previously.
Okay, so let's hold that there because we can segue into this a long way. But we're gonna not go any deeper into that. Is that good enough just for now? Like, I mean, we can talk about the theory and the philosophy for a long time just on that. I think what we can definitely say is there's a separation between, you said it, currency, these things we carry around that some people say is an illusion and greatest magic trick ever. And then we have this, someone said good money, hard money, and maybe it has, well, no intrinsic value, maybe it doesn't, but we have these different views. So then to move us further down this path then, what's wrong with what we had that we need a solution for? Because if there's no problem, we don't need a solution. And apparently crypto is like the holy grail solution. It's for everyone, blah, blah, yay, Bitcoin. Why? What's wrong with what we had?
You mean, what's wrong with fiat currency? Is that what you mean?
Okay, let's go with that.
Or do you mean the general system, like the?
Well, I'll ask you the question: which one's more
cart before the horse?
Yeah, which one's not performing as good as the other?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear the issue with fiat currency is lack of any fiscal responsibility by the people who control, the flow of that money, right? I mean, it's pretty clear. Like, there's no fiscal responsibility. You give I mean, if you give me a printer that I can print in my basement and print all the dollars I want, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go print all the money I can in my basement and throw it around, right? And we've given, well, we didn't give anybody that power, let's say. They took it. Somebody took it. So, I mean, ultimately, that's the big issue.
I thought we lived in a democracy whereby we have to agree these things.
That's adorable. All right. You're cute as a button. Yeah, no. But yeah, no, I mean, it was taken, right? I mean, I'm sure you know the history of money as well as I do, but of course, I mean, central banking really in the early 20th century became kind of the mainstay of the formation of money. And in the US, which kind of led the way for banking, money was more or less in some way or another backed by gold, which at least limited the amount of dollars that was capable of being printed up until 1971, I think.
79. When did we go to the moon? It was the year we went to the moon.
It was, I'm pretty sure it was 71 under Nixon. Yeah. And you know, Bretton Woods 2, we ended effectively ended the gold standard, right? Which is, I don't know if anybody, I actually wrote a master thesis on this years ago about this process and got a D on it because the economics professor did not appreciate my theory. But basically,
I thought the whole point of dissertations is you just meant to have your own opinion and come up with backing for it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I had quite a lot of backing, but see, she was more of a Keynesian economist and didn't really appreciate my views, let's say. But right after the end of that Bretton Woods Treaty, that Bretton Woods II Treaty, and ending the gold standard was the initiation of a currency futures market. Prior to that, there wasn't a currency futures market because every currency in the world was backed by the dollar, and the dollar was backed by gold. So there was no need for companies to hedge, currency hedge, because it was a fixed exchange anyway. But then, of course, once that that fixed exchange rate broke, all these big companies that are transacting in large commodities had to start hedging against their currency risk, and that was the beginning of derivatives market, or the currency derivatives market.
So I want to pause that there because you said a couple of words, and I do think it's important to touch on before we can go to the next bit. And that's Bretton Woods. So who has no idea what the word Bretton Woods is? Anybody who thinks it's a person? I did for a long time. I'm like, who's this Bretton Woods? So the Bretton Woods Agreement was after World War II, am I right? And a lot of rich, powerful people met in a place which was called Bretton Woods. Is that where the name comes from? And to cut a really long story short, they just said, we're going to remove gold from the backing of money. So
World War I.
it was World War
Actually,
I.
World War I.
Okay. And so that's the point whereby the notes that we had could then be printed because there's no backing. If you have to have a certain amount of, well, let's take USDC, the stable coin. Apparently, with its audits, if they issue $1 million of stable coins, there should be $1 million of assets. And when we removed the gold, it meant that we can print the notes.
That was Bretton Woods 2 that removed the backing.
There were two Bretton Woods.
Bretton Woods 2 was in 1971.
Is this like a sequel to a film?
It was kind
the
of
first film's not scary
enough. It was a sequel.
We live in a democracy.
Okay.
Yeah, we live in that democracy, right?
We have a question here. Keep them.
Just wanted to ask your opinion. How would you imagine the world now if they would have kept the gold standard? We would live in deflation, or like how would we live now?
There would be minimal inflation because you can only pull so much gold out of the ground, right? I mean, you can't pull but so much out of the ground at in any given year. So you'd have nominal inflation every year. But it depends on if it was a fixed exchange to gold, right? Because under Bretton Woods 1, gold was fixed at $35 an ounce, or 35 and change, I think. And it inched up a little bit over time. But I think even by 1971, it was still only in the 40s.
I'd like to add a bit to this part of the conversation. I mean, I'll start by saying that whatever you think is good money, this drink is, because it's huge and it's very good. So I recommend you one.
What's it called?
Well, I asked for a vodka tonic, but it's really good. My point is, what I think, and it kind of encompasses a little bit of what everyone has been saying. We're seeing a shift in times where central powers are being stripped of one power that they had left. Just picture yourself 1,000 years ago, or picture all of these societies where they believe that a deity came from heaven, whatever you thought, came and said, this is going to be the king. That was the world 1,000 years ago, when somebody was the heir of somebody that came from whenever. And then at a certain point in time, they started stripping away the religion from power. Now I am 100% certain, well, 99, let's say, that we're starting to strip away the centralization of money from power. There is no turning back from allowing only the governments to manage money. And that is what Satoshi gave us, a step into moving from stripping away the governments from being the only ones having the power of money. And that's why I love this world and this industry that we're in, because we're helping move that forward. And there's many experiments, and we're going to talk about, stable coins, and some of these I see as experiments. A lot of them will fail, some will be successful, but this is moving forward into a world where the central powers, that insider money, those, that somehow took power, no longer manage the only way of having value, or what was that? Your description of energy. So now we have a way of getting into a parallel universe of energy.
So just to give a strong analogy on that, you said that the blockchain, let's say, or Bitcoin, is stripping away the power of money from the governments in terms of the ability to control it. But this is to go back in time. If we look at information, the last time we had a golden era, which is at the end of the Roman Empire, the last biggest golden era we had, was because information and books were more dispersed. And then as we moved into about 400 AD, a particular religion decided that it would be a really good idea to burn a lot of books. And basically only if you were in that religion, or if you were at university, did you have access to books. And that lasted for 1,000 years until 1492. Pretty certain it's 1492 where something was invented. 10 points. The printing press, the Gutenheim.
And I wanted to add there that we're taking away their power to be the only ones.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll still keep power, but they're not going to have that monopoly on the value.
But when we look at how allowing people to have access to books and print changed, that's when the Renaissance occurred. So it didn't stop them having printing of books and everything. So I think that's a good callback to something whereby we can see historically that when you give people access to education and information, shit changes, stuff changes. Sorry, scrap that.
There's also, I think there's a bigger trend to decentralization as well. Money, of course, is a excellent, evolution of this decentralization. But does anybody know in the year 1900 how many countries there were on Earth? How many actual countries, lines on a map? Anybody know?
200.
Approximately 100.
Really?
Yeah. So 120 years ago, there was approximately 100 countries. So in the past century, we've actually decentralized. The actual nation state has been gradually decentralizing for the past 100 years because these nation states are losing that centralized authority because the people are gradually taking more and more power away. And I think that really escalates under crypto. What?
Like the United Kingdom, which is slowly just becoming
Russia or
England.
Soviet Union. Soviet Union overnight became 26 countries. Yugoslavia. I mean, look at a time map of Africa. over the past 50 years. It's pretty fun to watch a time map of Africa to see how many more lines get drawn over a 50-year period in there. So it's kind of an interesting trend that a lot of people don't really even know, because humans are pretty myopic. We don't really think outside of our own lifespans too much.
Just before we move on, we have a question here.
Hello, my name is Thomas.
Hey, Tom.
I have an observation about money. You say money is what it's basically based on full faith and credit. So we extend our faith and credit to that bill. That bill is derived on the future taxation of human energy. So it's a unit of exchange, a bartering method, whether it's a note or a debt instrument or a bond, it doesn't matter. That money is represents an exchange of human energy over time, and it's built and it's printed in advance of the human. So once you have that instrument to exchange, you have to understand that it's technically called a debt instrument. And when you go to the bank, you believe you're the debtor borrowing money. You are not. You're assigning. You are the assignee. The bank cannot function without your depository money. So the power of the bank is to take as much account money from you, hold that money, and then they can hypothecate it 100 to 1, or in the case of 2008, 100,000 to 1, where they had no solvency because they didn't have a gold standard of 1 to 1 anymore. They just kept on extending that leverage until it was bad math. And then they got bailed out of their bad ledger, and they wiped the ledger clean and cut everybody loose. So money, you say that the food has intrinsic value. It has no value if you're allergic to that food. You extend the value to that money and use the money only as a representation to exchange energy to something. How this bridges into cryptocurrency, from my observations, since we're dealing in a centralized central bank pyramid scheme, it doesn't matter if there's 200 countries now instead of 100. The IMF and the Federal Reserve extend the US dollar to every nation. If they don't, they go in and beat them up and take away their assets, their mineral rights, and etc. So that's the strategy of the basic state of England. The administrative function of England sends out the goon squad of the US to do the collection. And there's a Vatican in the back smiling, collecting the taxes. So the real method that you want, why you want money, is because you lend out. Would you rather get pretend interest on $1,000 or pretend interest on $1 million? So you hypothecate, lend everybody lots of interest at 19% on your credit cards, and then you never had any money in the first place. So all you're doing is collecting all this interest off nothing, and it's amazing. You just keep on lending and extending to your as long as you want. But where this bridges for me into crypto, and why there's such a resistance and lawsuits going on for regulations, is because the decentralized nature of crypto is making an accounting ledger that's accurate. Now, you could argue whether Bitcoin it's full faith and credit. You're extending the credit into Bitcoin because there's no intrinsic value there but perception. If you had a gold-backed cryptocurrency from gold asset-backed and on an account record, you do have real money backed and represented by a current cryptocurrency that would only be a way of exchanging digital information for value. So that'd be amazing. So where I see the bridge here of this is the restriction. They really don't want you out of crypto. And you know that if you go to buy crypto, they'll block your bank account. Lots of times this just doesn't work. They won't take, right? They won't take your debit card, which is actually pre-funded, and they want to extend credit to you, don't they? And want you to use your credit card to buy crypto. And you go, why? I get 30 days to pay that back. That's awesome for me. And it is really at that level. But for the bank, they want interest, hoping you'll default and just collect more interest. So why would they let you use your debit card? So you start seeing a lot of transactions fail, and they're just debit card transactions. And you're thinking, I actually have the money on account in the bank. Why wouldn't that work? So what we're seeing is this another scheme where they just can't handle losing their leverage. So going into crypto, they're losing all of their leverage, aren't they? Once we're out of fiat and into crypto, can't find the guy. He's running all over the place, buying things and accumulating wealth. We can't tax it. So you can see you can see the leverage and where we're going with crypto. You could literally put everything on a ledger and allow complete access. There's complete accountability with the blockchain, complete transparency. You're coming into the light. And this really is a war, psychic war, like from the dark to the light. And crypto brings everybody into the light. When you come onto the ledger, you're into the light. Over there, absolutely without light.
Okay, Tom. So you shared a lot here. Can we give him a round of applause there? So there's like, I don't know, there's at least 10 segues in there, but I'm going to just summarize one key bit. You have shared your view of the problem, which is what we wanted to get to anyway, and also where crypto fits into that solution. Because ultimately I think we lose sight of that sometimes, especially when you're in crypto and you live in these bubbles, and these are like very thick and they feel big, but they're not big. What's the last percentage? At less than 1 or 2% of the planet. If every crypto wallet that has money was only owned by one person, we're at less than a couple of percent of the entire planet in crypto. 3%, like it's so tiny that we forget. So I think it's good to remember sometimes why we're doing what we're doing. So I'm going to bring this up here now. Like, Bobby, you started to share it last time, like what's starting to be wrong with some of these systems. A couple of minutes from Ernesto or Trav, like what's wrong, what's the problem so that it needs a solution?
Okay, so what I heard from there, and I definitely agree with a lot of that. I think that he did a good job in trying to simplify this, but really what we're looking at is a lot of political issues in general, right? I think we can agree on that. And that power corrupts in general as well. And that centralized power and centralized money becomes a tool for corruption and control. And they use debt as a artificial slavery mechanism, from what I tried to understand from that, right? And that being that you're indebted and then therefore you'll have to owe in perpetuity, and they gamify the money system by giving you more money now in terms of credit. That way you participate in their monetary schema. Would you agree with that? Yeah. All right, good.
I thought it was quite good.
Okay. So then this brings us back to one of our premise points of decentralization, right? And us having some sort of sovereign control over what our money means. And, there's a large possibility that Bitcoin's not the final answer, but it's 100% a step in the right direction, first off, right? And I think it's a large part of this conversation tonight, what it's brought to my eyes is that, one, I don't think everyone agrees on the principal definition of what money is, right? And so this is something that it's going to be something we're going to have to rethink, and some issues we're going to have to face in the next years of our society, of like how we view money, because I think a lot of us have viewed it in a very secure nature, which is how it's meant to be presented by our governments, and particularly the US dollar as an oil reserve currency. But we're going to have to understand that money can also just be a very fluid sense of bartering mechanism, and that there can be parallel systems that exist, and the more parallel systems that we have, then the less centralized control and authority one will be able to exercise over us.
Okay, cool. So
decentralization, basically.
Yeah, but that's what we're coming around to in that instance.
Yeah.
So you're sharing there that the minute we can take that, the minute we're moving from that centralized point of view, there's less of a ability to impact or create influence in the same way that a centralized system would. Cool. Ernesto, you want to put a couple of points on that before we go deeper into decentralization and centralization?
Yeah, I mean, the way I see what's not working is that society evolves. Where we are now is that a lot of the world is, or most of the world is, more or less democratic. And democracy, as much as it has proven that is the best system out there, still it has some major flaws. And with all respect, I'm talking about the democracy in the modern world. I'm not even talking about the democracy we have in Latin America, or the democracy I've seen in Venezuela, where one person literally crushes lives of people. I'll just give an example. My good friend's father worked for about 45 years and retired, sold his business, wanted to spend his last years not working, and hyperinflation hit. This guy's father literally had to be maintained by my friend in his last 5 years of life, because 45 years of work was put into the bank in bolivars, and that literally was not enough to eat for a week. So that system that we have now allows some criminals to debase the money, and Venezuela is the extreme example, but others are seeing that, well, the system is not flawless. This can happen to many of us, and that evolution of people started to open the eyes of many, including whomever Satoshi was or is or were or are. And they just said, well, we can, in this evolution that I've been speaking, we can create another way of allowing people to drive some of these energies. So evolution is what's allowing us to see the flaws that the current system has and find ways to keep on evolving.
Okay, so then let's summarize this. We'll come for questions in a bit, Robert. We're just in the middle of something at the minute. So we have a history of money that's backed by something that was taken away in the Bretton Woods agreement. And then we're left with these things in our pocket that don't have the same backing. So then we don't have the same backing, and that's then run by a centralized perspective that, as Bobby said, if he had a money printer and he's printing in his basement, it'd probably going brr and printing all the time. So then we start to move as we look and realize that these centralized perspectives, these centralized points of view haven't been helping. So then in this last little bit here, we're starting to talk about how and where crypto comes into this mix, and how when we start to split out and decentralize it, it doesn't fix the problem, but it allows a better solution to coming to fix the problem. Is that fair? Because it's not the answer. It's the possibility of an answer. A more fairer playing field, maybe.
Everything in increments, right? Okay. Like, it's very rare that we're going to go from black to white in one step. Like, I mean, I think everyone can agree on that. But if we aren't moving in the correct direction, then we're probably moving in the incorrect direction, because there's very few things in the world that exist completely neutral.
Bobby?
Yeah, I was just going to say, historically, whenever there's been an economic crisis, and I'm thinking about the comparison between centralization and decentralization plus opportunities we have. So if you look back historically during an economic crisis, there's always been a massive transfer of wealth. The problem is it's almost always a transfer of wealth from the lower to middle class into the upper class, right? Usually it's lower middle class loses their jobs, they go bankrupt, they lose their houses, so on and so forth, whereas the powers that be, so to speak, take advantage of these opportunities and collect more and more assets during that period. I think we do have a pretty tremendous opportunity right now with cryptocurrency that we can actually flip that. We can actually, because it's a little bit funny to think about, but we're in a inflationary environment right now. Pretty much all your central banks are printing money like crazy, and they're printing them more, some countries more than others, but they're all printing money pretty rapidly. We can actually take the opportunity now and use this inflated currency to basically on-ramp it into crypto, where we can actually, more in the lower and middle class people, actually take advantage of economic crises. Not that we're exactly in one at the moment, but we are in a heavily inflationary environment where, like I said, historically, it usually goes the other way around. So
Bobby,
just an opportunity
right.
thing, I think.
I agree with you as an opportunity, and I would like to pose the question as to how, right? So, and I'm going to frame this in the sense of like how, as in like, how do we get Bitcoin and all of the cryptocurrencies, all of these decentralized currencies, let's just generalize, how do we get this to move forward? Does this involve like educating your neighbor? Is it being an ambassador at your local restaurants? Like, do you have some opinions on that?
I think all of that, right? I mean, I get paid in crypto for some of the work that I do. I have clients that pay me in crypto. I pay in crypto for certain things.
Can we hold that there? I'm curious. Yep. Who receives payment in crypto as part of their work? If you're happy to share. Okay, cool. Who is in crypto and upon reflection in this moment actually would quite like to be paid in crypto but isn't? Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
I was going to say, I have a good friend of mine who's just in e-commerce, like a normal e-commerce store that you wouldn't think it's even a crypto-friendly type business. And he just put crypto payments on his website. And in 1 year, his revenue increased on the crypto side. His revenue increased about 50%. 50%, only because he added crypto payments. He didn't change really anything else. And it was pretty cool. And it's nothing like special. It's not like he's selling, some crypto friendly service or product, just normal products on e-commerce. So, I mean, that's one way to like get started. If you have a business, you have a website selling stuff, put it as a payment option. There's plenty of opportunities. There's plenty of plugins on your site to add that. Just, I mean, who knows? It doesn't hurt you to put it as an option on there. And if you get paid a little bit here and there, you're at least promoting it and putting it in the eyeballs of your customers. Even if they don't pay, they even see it like, look at that. I can buy this widget for, Ethereum right here on the site. So it's just a mindset shift, and it'll probably take a generation or two to get, into that. But I mean, in 10 years, we've progressed quite rapidly, I think.
Yeah. Sometimes people ask me what I think in the next 10 years. And I always say, well, the iPhone's like 13 years old. 10 years. Like, it excites me and it scares me a little bit, like how much things change. Ernesto?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to kind of debate a bit one of the points you were making, because it is true that crypto opens up opportunities for the non 1%, but it is also true that some of the biggest gainers in crypto has been the 1%. I've been studying crypto and I've been reading a lot about the first years, and many of the huge billionaires we see in crypto right now were people that were already wealthy, and they got pitched Bitcoin in 2010, 2011. There's a Venezuelan guy, I don't remember his name now. He was going around Silicon Valley back in those days pitching, and he pitched to Bill Gates and many of this, and those people poured what was not a lot of money for them at the time, give it $1 million to this crazy guy, get out of my face. And then a few years later, he was like, hey, call the crazy guy because that million is now whatever. And that was exactly the case of one very popular millionaire guy that we see speaking about Bitcoin right now. And it's a Mexican tycoon. And I'm not going to say the name, but you probably have used one of his banks or watched his television station, whom has been in crypto for a long time. And recently he became very open about crypto and has been very outspoken. But I mean, how do you see the fact that, this system that was made to allow the other 99% has also in many ways been taken advantage of by the 1%? And I don't have anything against the 1%. I mean, working hard to get there. But the reality is that it is also taken advantage by those who had a lot of money before Bitcoin.
I think it's fucking cool. Good for them. I mean, they're, like you take Elon Musk, for example. Like him, hate him, the guy's a fucking genius, right? He's smarter than me. He's smarter than all of us, probably. And we're not, so what? Let him take advantage of crypto. Good for him. I'm saying we have the opportunity in the lower and middle class to also take advantage of that. But if Bill Gates wants to buy, a ton of Bitcoin, awesome. Good for him.
We're it's very, 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 very unlikely, and in my personal opinion, delusional to think that you're going to topple any government, point blank, first off, right? And this is where I was wanting to, this exact argument and this exact discussion, we'll say, perspective, is what I was trying to allude to earlier when I was mentioning, like, imagine that all of the money in the world pre-Bitcoin went through one pipe, and one pipe alone, and those pipes went directly to the 1%. Now there's a leak. Okay, we don't need perfect solutions to gain footing and to gain progress. And this is why I've always been of the opinion that even if like bad press is still good press if it's still promoting awareness towards a good cause.
And if you use it in the right way. Like at the positioning of things, anything can happen. You look at war tactics, you only need someone to have one tiny slip up. Doesn't mean you've won, but if you can use that slip up in the right way, like it's all about positioning sometimes.
Yep. Yeah, positioning means a lot. And if we, as a group, as people, as a crowd, as human beings, as citizens of the world, if we position ourselves in order to bolster and to support this decentralized money system that we believe in, like, we may not all become millionaires overnight, but we're going to make some sort of progress. And that's a position in itself.
Okay, we're going to come on to a question. Go on, Matt, do you want to ask you a question?
Yep. And I would like to try to move into stable coins after this.
We've got 20 minutes left, so we want to be ramping.
Okay, I'll make it quick. It's an observation when you said we can't topple governments. But from let's say a sovereignty anarchist perspective, well, from a human perspective, a government's just a reflection of a society anyway. So if we allow governments to be governments because we don't take action beyond our myopic life, let's say. So if we're all moving towards sovereignty, we're actually then creating more systems, parallel systems, that begin to reflect our immediate life and our immediate relatives and our immediate environment, which is why it's interesting that a lot of crypto projects actually have more charitable, more social aims to it than governments do. And then coming to decentralization, for instance, I read recently there was a village or a town somewhere in America that used honey as a store of value. A jar of honey was worth 1 clover, I think. And when you think about that, honey being a store of value, you need good environment, you need good flowers, you need healthy bees, for instance. So those kind of two conceptual ideas, sovereignty and using the environment as a store of value, will advance us towards a parallel system that doesn't even need a government.
And I think using parallel systems is one of the operating philosophies here, right? Like, we don't have to change everything, but if we create more parallels, which is in a way decentralizing power from one place to others that we have some sort of control over or influence, and even if there's still one main branch and one main tree trunk, we'll say, and we branch off of it, then that's giving more opportunities for us to influence the overall ecosystem.
Like hard forking the society and the government.
Exactly.
There's a Buckminster Fuller quote that says, to change the model and the system, you don't fight it, you build a new model that makes the old model obsolete. Because people we're all flawed, like we're all working and we're all doing things and we're moving in our own ways. And I think as soon as we make these parallel systems, someone said, how do you know Bitcoin's going to work? And I said, I don't. I said, but right now, if I look, okay, not Bitcoin, what's my option? Well, that's shit. So I'll choose Bitcoin for now until it'll either materialize as the parallel system that makes the old one obsolete, or we'll all have a session one day and we'll be like, we'll talk about something else. Ernesto?
I just wanted to add really quickly something there that I saw both in Venezuela and Argentina. When countries when the countries money starts collapsing, generally the first thing that the governments do is they control. They say, hey, you cannot sell the bolivars, you cannot sell the Argentinian pesos, you cannot sell the Turkish lira, you cannot sell the Ukrainian hryvnia. Bitcoin and crypto provide that other option. And then you see, if you want to, don't trust my thing and verify it, go to local Bitcoin's volumes and see what happens when the inflation started spiking in Argentina and Venezuela. Their volumes just skyrocket because people start using that as a pressure release to their economy, and especially people that trade, because money, energy is like water. You cannot stop it. It'll find a way out.
So let's use this here. I want to use this because we want to come into stable coins. So unless every question is good, it really is. But we have 20 minutes left, and I want to make sure we finish with an actual solution. Otherwise, it's just a really heavy talk.
Okay.
But Ernesto said something really good there, which is that when a government starts to go, let's say, in jeopardy, it has some issues, whatever they may be, it says you can't, ... Doesn't matter what it says, but it says you can't, and then you go to your bank to try to, and you can't. But Bitcoin and Ethereum, well, we'll just say Bitcoin for now, doesn't, because it's decentralized. So let's talk about the solutions from a stable coin perspective and where and how they may be a parallel system for the meantime that helps people. Have I framed that well enough?
Okay, so
We'll
if
work
I
it out.
may, I'm going to try to transition this from like a more statistics point of view, historics as well.
You can do what you want, Trav, but
right.
we have 20 minutes
So
left.
everything has a product life cycle, which means everything starts from nothing. Well, not everything, but all things that are successful starts from nothing, rises big, and eventually crashes. We talked about this with the Roman Empire earlier, right? So not all products last forever is basically the premise. They have a peak moment, and then eventually they die out and they're replaced with a better sense of technology. And that's sort of where we are moving with the stablecoin environment. Now, stablecoins are new. And for those of you who don't know, currently stablecoins are basically pegged or matched towards other fiat currencies that everyone use. Because just like if you remember email in 1995 and the internet was basically a mirror of how the physical world operated until it had the chance to get adoption for people to onboard and had a chance to evolve. I imagine that's where most of stablecoins and crypto are going to go as well. So let's take that in consideration. And currently, stablecoins are trying to mirror and represent what we're used to in fiat assets, aka the US dollar. Let's use that as an example. And going to the point of where we started earlier, which was the currency and money being also a store of value. And a lot of stable coins are using multi-collateralized asset mechanisms to represent what the stable coin is. So instead of just being held, like, for example, some stable coins, I think the USDC is like $100 in USDC equals 100 physical dollars. But there's a lot of new algorithmic stable coins that are using multi-collateral assets, which could be anything from land or gold, or it's kind of like a basket that they're using to represent the value between the stable coins. And stable coins will be probably one of the most important features of the crypto and blockchain ecosystem, in my opinion.
Okay, so I'm not going to say anything here. Anyone else want to add into stablecoins, decentralization, anything on there? We'll see what we've got at the end.
Just quick on stablecoins. I just think it's a transitionary period to help get more mass adoption, because it's easier for somebody who doesn't believe in, some algorithmic currency that they have no concept of how it works, to say, oh, USDC, USD, close enough. It's worth $1. I've got $1. All I got to do is figure out a little bit of technology, and then I can buy my Starbucks. So I think it's just a transitional thing, but eventually, everything moves to cryptocurrency at some point. Stable coins, I think, have a role, but it'll more than likely transition into, like you were saying, the more algorithmic backed stable coins. Like what's the one, UST, I think.
UST is probably the biggest.
It's Luna. UST is backed by Luna, right? It's the
second, like in terms of locked value for DeFi, it's second only to Ethereum. Is that right now? Like he's got a lot locked into it. And I would say
it's a shitload. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So-
my math term.
Or no, there's a point I want to make on that, which is that surely whatever the future is within crypto, we're still going to need something stable. We can't constantly be, but then maybe something like Bitcoin stabilizes.
I think it has to stabilize. I mean, once we reach mass adoption, eventually all your primary currencies will stabilize. The only ones that will be volatile will be,
new experimental,
new stuff,
companies.
various tokens like utility tokens, stuff like that. But your primary currency coins will eventually all stabilize once we reach, I don't know, a couple of trillion people.
Yeah,
using
because
them.
I suppose the minute you have more value locked in each coin, it becomes harder and harder and harder to actually heavily affect its price.
To move the price, yeah.
Yeah. So then let's keep on the problem solution, because what we're talking about here is way down the line, whereby we might not need stable coins because Bitcoin's stabilized. But right now, when we start to talk about countries and fiat and the stuff, you mentioned Venezuela. There was a lady in our group that came from Hungary, and she said, if you've never been through a currency collapse, she said, you've got no idea what it feels like. And I realized in that moment that I'm a British born person. I've never experienced that. So Ernesto, from your point of view, where do you see, or how do you see stable coins offering a lifeline or a help in this transitionary period whilst we have two parallel tracks? And maybe as and where decentralization comes into that.
Yeah. Well, when you take a step back and you see things in a 10-year period, 50-year period, 100-year period, then everything is transitionary. So from that perspective, I do think I have seen that stable coins, even though I work for Dash, which is not a stable coin, and I shouldn't be saying this, but stable coins are playing a huge role in every unstable market in the world. If you go and you see what's happening on the ground in any place that's taking crypto adoption, it has even surpassed Bitcoin. If you want today, look at blue dollar in Argentina and look what's happening in blue dollar in the cuevas. The cuevas is like a place in downtown Argentina where you go and you illegally exchange your pesos for dollars, but they give you black market rate. What's happened is before stable coins were massive, people were doing everything in Bitcoin. Now they're doing a lot in stable coins. So in the short term, stable coins are filling a gap because everyone, it's pretty safe to say almost everyone that is not in North America or Europe looks to the dollar as a desired currency. So in the short term, that's going to continue being good, a dollar good for almost 4 billion people in the world. And while we're at it, there's the two types, the dollar-backed stablecoin and the algorithm stablecoin, and both of them are in experimental period right now. I think, and that's something that worries me, some could fail, and I'm afraid of systemic risk. But I think, when you're throwing a lifeline to hundreds of thousands, millions of people, the risk sometimes is worth it. So, it's kind of a difficult situation to be in, but in the short term, I do see that stablecoins are a big help, even though they're centralized in many aspects. And doing the segue into centralized and decentralized, my short line there is that, what is good? What is truth? There's no truth. There's no real good. You can't define it. Same thing with centralized and decentralization. Depending on the definition you give me, I can tell you, well, if you look at it from this perspective, it's not as centralized or it's not as decentralized. So stable coins like Tether, like Circle, like all of them, they're kind of a decentralized version of central banks. They're still more centralized than we wish they were, but they're more decentralized than than a central bank. So, I mean, it's a long debate. And like I said in the beginning, I'm a crypto pragmatic, and I want to promote and push people to use whatever solves their problem in the immediate term, and let them know, hey, there is a risk. Be aware of this risk, but if you have options, you have more liberty, and that's what crypto gives us.
Okay, just so we're clear, we're going to be coming. Thank you for that, Ernesto. That was really good. We're going to be coming to the last 5 minutes. So we always try to finish on time, because at 9 o'clock they're going to start a big techno party, usually that or heavy rock, and it gets harder for us to speak and to listen. And you've all been so really good today, really, really good. So 5 minutes, 2 minutes each. I'm not going to count, but try your best to do your own self-counting. And I'd also love someone's final comments or points. If you're someone in here, you got a question, or you want to make a statement at the end? A statement. Okay, we got one statement. You got another statement or a question? Okay, let's take that. But we're clock watching, guys. So concise questions, concise answers. No pressure.
We've been talking about a lot of the solutions of crypto over the centralized system of fiat and how that's all worked. Now, a lot of the new technologies that have come out over the past several hundred years have been used for good and for evil. Blockchain can currently, under the political systems and the issues we've had over the past couple of years, can be used for identification purposes and all that type of thing. What do you think the chances are of it being co-opted and used by these nefarious type of things?
Very high. And I would even venture to say that getting complacent is our biggest obstacle, which is how we've got to these basically unimonetary fiat situation that was removed from the gold standard to start with. And we're going to have cycles of complacency and outrage, and the world comes in waves. But this is why having parallel systems is a very good thing, because if we have more than one system that people recognize, and we understand that money is just some form of medium of energy exchange, and it is not a finite nature in itself, and we don't view it from such a materialistic point of view, then we will be able to prepare ourselves a little better.
Nice.
100% it's going to get used. But I'll pose the question back to you. What are the chances that somebody might use the dollar for nefarious purposes?
Ooh.
Right. I mean, it is the #1 currency for illegal activity, right?
But the government, hang on, the government told me it was Bitcoin.
HSBC doesn't like this meetup.
The government told me Bitcoin is where all money laundering happens, and
you should believe that. The government said it, and also it's on the internet.
Thank you for confirming that.
Yeah. I mean, not much to add there. I know for a fact that whatever dictator you think is bad in the world has been using crypto, but they prefer dollars. I mean, they're just like anyone else that doesn't want to get left behind, because they understand the technology is good. And I think what we can do, and what we're doing, and what you guys are doing by being here, is get informed about the options that the crypto world gives us. It's not only for it's no longer an insider market. It's not only for those in power. I always say that with options, you have freedom, and crypto gives us option. And that's why I love working for freedom.
And I think that let's have a round of applause before we come to our audience statement. Sir, you want to round off?
Yeah, some interesting comments. I'm pretty bearish on Bitcoin long term, because I can see it's turned into a bit of a surveillance coin. So I'm more optimistic about things like Monero, which is what I think Bitcoin should have been more like. The stable coins, I don't know, the US dollar's lost, what, 97% of its buying power in 100 years. I think it's good to onboard onto a stable coin into other assets if you're traveling between countries. But I can definitely see if people aren't careful about their privacy, they're going to probably get a knock on the door from their government asking for a handout. And if you're happy to fund your own prison, then I guess you wouldn't have a problem with that. But the big thing in crypto is definitely a lack of political understanding about the world. You know, the lack of concern for privacy and the lack of concern for the political reality. How a lot of centralized exchanges are becoming beholden to the state, and we've seen that with the Canadian truckers thing, where people's bank accounts being frozen just for donating small amounts. So I can definitely see a big case for privacy coins and privacy in general in the crypto space. But yeah, statements like democracy is an almost perfect system. I don't mean to take a stab at that, but I couldn't disagree more. I think democracy has been a disaster, and we need to sort of talk about the bigger political agenda in the world. You know, this building of this Orwellian state, how it's going to tie in with a digital ID and a possible social credit score. So that's going to have to be factored in when it comes to crypto, because, you know, you don't want your credits turned off, for example. If you've been behaving badly or you haven't taken a certain product, you could be penalized in the future. So I think these are some things to consider.
Also, what's your name, sir?
Peter.
Peter, thank you very much. You didn't even realize, but the next topic we're going to be discussing is privacy. Not today, of course. But thank you very much. You beautifully framing that at the end, because it is a huge topic. And someone once said to me that I have nothing to hide. I don't care about privacy. And the best response I ever read was, not caring about privacy because you've got nothing to hide is like not caring about free speech because you have nothing to say. And I always remember that, because like you might not have anything to hide, but it doesn't mean that you just give it all. So I'm sorry, sir, no more. We can shout it out, heckle us. So where are we at? We really wanted to try tonight to have just a bit more of a discussion. Do you think we achieved that well enough? Yeah?
Yo!
So for me, one of the reasons I really, really, really love crypto, I said something earlier and someone in the audience winced a little bit. I said that we like to discuss crypto because we're weird, and they winced, probably because they don't want to be considered weird. But it's true, because if you're normal, you're not in crypto, because the government tells you that crypto is bad. It's where all the drugs, all the money laundering, I told you that they told me, crypto is evil. So we are weird. We're the fringe of society in one format or another. You can have a total normal life somewhere, but if you're in crypto, you're part of a very, very, very small percentage of nerds and rich people.
For now.
For now, yeah. But we're really good at discussing stuff and being open to things because we're considered a bit weird. And I like that. And I think that's good. And I really enjoy what that brings. So we wouldn't be weird if we didn't have weirdos or normies, and everyone out there is weird. You can reframe it however you want. I don't care. But without you guys, without these guys, and without this space, we wouldn't even have a conversation, and we wouldn't have a 1%, 2%, or 3%. So for everyone that's here, for everyone that speaks, for everyone that's on the stage, for these microphones, people that make them, can we all give ourselves a big round of applause? Because we're part of this weird 2%, 3% of doing something, and we're moving forward, and we're seeing where it goes, and who knows where that will take us to. So we're gonna round off with a couple of things today. Put your hand up if you paid your entrance fee. No, because it's free, which is good. But we are a load of predominantly non-Mexican people here. Where are my Mexican people? 1, give me 2, 2. Can I have a third? No, see, I've never got past 3. So we're all in another foreign country talking about crypto, and there's a lot of money in it. And we do these events for free because myself and Chris, who's somewhere, he's here, we love it. And Vadim helps for free. These guys are here for free, and these guys. And this space we're in they give it us for free. And so in exchange for that, we have a bluish container. And we collect money in this container for a charity called CEAI. And she helps disabled people have an education and have a place to be, because the Mexican government cannot afford to provide education facilities for disabled people. So we collect money for her every single one of these events. And what we do, I went to her and I said, hey, what do you need? And she said, Daniel, all I want to do is employ my staff 5 days a week. And I said, how many do you employ them now? And she said, 2 or 3. I said, how much does it cost to get to 5? And she gave us a figure. And every single month, we give her that money to pay for her staff for 5 days. And your contributions into here help to contribute towards that. So you can pay whatever you want. You can put nothing in, because if you're in a space where you need your money, that's cool. But if you're in a good space and you have enjoyed tonight, then it's a tiny little bit of contribution to just help balance things. So Vadim's going to go around, put whatever denominations you want in, and we make sure they get to her. She's called Edith. She's just outside near the highway, and you can go and visit her anytime. She's a lovely, wonderful woman. So if you have some money to donate, that would be really, really lovely. Who has never been here before? Show us your hand. This venue, this particular space. So this space is called Zitla Siba. And I would love everyone in a moment to turn to the back of the room, because these guys help us. We've had 200 people here for these events before now. These guys work. 1, 2, 2, 2. So when we lost our space, turn me down a little bit. When we lost our space, they said, hey, we have a nice space. Do you want to do it? And we came here and we were like, wow, this is beautiful. So all these guys at the Rev Tops have helped us. Can you please turn to the back of the room and give them a big round of applause and say thank you to the Zitla Siba crew? Do not forget, I know I have just asked for donations, but do not forget that in Mexico, people that serve and help out don't get paid much money. So we've had people not even pay their bill when they leave here. So please pay your bill. And when you're there, if you can hit the 20% or 15% propina button, that's really cool as well. And it shows your love and your support for these people. So thank you guys for always helping out, for being here for us. Thank you very much to our speakers for today. Give them a round of applause. For our panelists, they did a really good job. Thank you for putting your hand up. As you can see, we just put a message out. If you guys ever want to be part of the panel, the next one's going to be on privacy. Reverberate. Privacy. So if you have things to say on privacy, then please do DM me. You'll find me in the group anyway. And finally, for all of our crew that help out, we have Vadim, we have Javier at the back, we got Sawai, Chris, and myself. You can find our channels on Instagram. This is on a podcast now as well. We're recording from the back. If you didn't want to be recorded, I probably should have told you at the beginning, but it's too late now. I'll accept your past silence as acceptance that recording is okay. So without further ado, next week when we're here every single week on a Wednesday, and it fluctuates between socials and produced events. So when it's a social, there's many conversations, beers, chat, enjoy yourselves. When we have a produced event, we try and have one conversation at once. So this has been one of our produced events. Next week's going to be a social. We'll let you know when the next event is. In 2 weeks, definitely, or not? 2 weeks' time. So we're going to a social next week, produced event the week after, which will probably be on privacy. So until then, guys, thank you very much. I want to give one final round of applause for everybody. This has been the Playa del Carmen Crypto Dinner number 47. Enjoy your evening and enjoy Bitcoin. Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
Feels like I'm waiting, like I'm watching you fall out. Dreams where I'm fading, fading. So free my mind, all the talking, wasting all your time. I'll give it all that I've got. Feels like I'm dreaming, like I'm walking by your side. Keeps on repeating, repeating. So free my mind, all the talking, wasting all your time. I'll give it all that I've got. If you want me, if you need me, I'm yours. If you want me, if you need me, I'm yours. If you want me, if you need me, I'm yours. If you want me, if you need me, if you want me, if you need me, I'm yours. If you want me, if you need me, I'm yours. Feels like I'm waiting, like I'm but I've got if you want me, if you need me, I'm yours. If you want me, if you need me, I'm yours.
I know a guy with a rock star life, but he still don't fly, so he's mad at the sky. He sits me down, he kicks his wisdom. He's been around, I give him a listen. Seems like he's got a lot of complaints about how nowadays things ain't the same. Nah, used to play some faith in the basement, a toast for the sky and those kids that he came with. Cause they all on the same shit based on cut down placement. Uptown, stay strong. Don't ever do a dance with the devil now. That smile is a sign that you're selling now. Judgment, gossip, ethics, let's just exploit all this excess. You can feel how he feels to walk around town looking down from them tall heels. And who needs fame or fortune when you get the same love that the fame is snorting? Future, so afraid of yours that you strayed from the course and you came up short. Believe he would have more credibility if he wasn't just another drunk pill junkie. It's obvious to me that he's still hungry for the superstars, a little bad lucky. Go ahead and get mad at God, point your fingers at your dad and at Santa Claus. Listen, all of y'all, it's a sabotage. Wouldn't look so bad with the bandage off. It goes 1 for the bar tab, 2 for the shine. Slow to your car, do another line. Barely trust them, they're all puppets. Love is nothing, scared of success. 1 for the bass, 2 for the drums. Last call, gon' take whatever comes. Barely trust them, they're all puppets. Love is nothing, scared of success. I think it's great how you used to be great. I can't hate on how you choose to relate, but I know that you had the potential. I understand why you wanted to let go. A lot of pressure in the middle of those shoulders, and we ain't getting nothing but older. Ain't nothing changed but the day we run from, but nobody knows it better than you, huh? 1 for the bar tab, 2 for the shine. Just go to your car, do another line. Barely trust them, they're all puppets. Love is nothing, scared of success. 1 for the bass, 2 for the drums. Last call, gonna take whatever comes. Barely trust them, they're all puppets. Love is nothing, scared of success. 1 for the bar tab, 2 for the shine. Slow your car, do another line. Barely trust them, they're all puppets. Love is nothing, scared of success. 1 for the bass, 2 for the drums. Last call, gonna take whatever comes. Barely trust them, they're all puppets. Love is nothing, scared of success.